Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and my law firm assists veterinarians with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about non-compete clauses for veterinarians and veterinary associates, for those that are employed by corporate practices or small physician or veterinarian groups. So, a non-compete clause is enforceable unless you're in one of the handful of states where non-competes are completely unenforceable. So the first thing you need to do is identify whether you are in one of those states. That's the first thing. So if you are in a state where it's unenforceable and it's in your contract, even if you sign it, it's not going to be enforced by a court. Next, you need to identify the three things that are in any veterinary contract non-compete. One is the scope, so what they're stopping the vet from doing. Two, the time, how long are you stopped from doing it? And then three, the geographic restriction. So in what area can you not work as a vet? So let's just start with each component. First, the scope. It's important that you limit the non-compete to what you're doing specifically for that employer. Now, if you're just doing kind of general, veterinary activities, that's one thing. But if you're working for, let's say an emergency hospital, then you want the non-compete to state that you can't work, in an emergency hospital setting for, 1 year and within 10 miles of the clinic or something like that. Or if you're on the side, you're doing like large animal, equine or something like that, then it should be tailored specifically to what you're doing for that employer. Now, I know the vast majority of vets are just kind of general vets, but that's the first thing you need to think about is what is the scope of this non-compete? 2, time. Most non-competes are somewhere between 1 to 2 years. You always want to shoot for 1. It's very unlikely a court would enforce a non-compete longer than 2 years for a vet. And it's pretty rare to see a non-compete shorter than 1 year. So 1 year should be the goal of what you want to shoot for. Now, the geographic restriction is kind of the one component that varies the most between all of them. For this reason, let's take a 5-mile restriction. 5 miles in New York City is vastly different than 5 miles in rural Montana. A 5-mile restriction in the middle of New York City could knock out hundreds of opportunities, whereas a 5-mile restriction in rural Montana you might not have any other opportunities to work as a vet in those areas. So it's dependent upon where the practice is located. You also need to think about whether there's language that states it's just the specific practice you're working in, or if you work for maybe a corporate vet practice, is it every practice that they own, within the state or the area? You want to limit it to just where you are working. So if you're working at multiple clinics, then it will likely be okay for the restriction to attach to each of those clinics. But let's say there's a huge corporate practice and they have 10, sites within a large city. Well, you don't want 10 miles from 10 different sites. That can knock out almost the entire city. So you want to be very careful about the language in there and see what it attaches to. It should just be the places that you are providing veterinary care, not every place that the corporation provides veterinary care. Now, when is the time to negotiate? Obviously, before you sign the agreement. Yes, non-competes are enforceable as long as it's not in one of those states that I mentioned where they have, where non-competes are completely unenforceable. Do not sign an agreement with some kind of, discussion with the employer where they say, we're not even going to enforce it, don't worry about it, but we want you to sign it. Absolutely not. You need to be willing to accept whatever you sign, so don't do that, obviously. You need to negotiate the terms before you sign the agreement. So for some people, a non-compete is the most important thing. For families that are established in a community, their kids go to school, maybe they grew up in an environment, they have other family members there, and they just absolutely cannot leave. The non-compete can be the most important thing. For others, maybe they moved to the city just for this job, and they say, if this job doesn't work out, I'm moving anyway, then there's no point in putting any time into negotiating the non-compete. You want to spend that capital somewhere else. So you have to just kind of determine what is your unique need and then whether the non-compete can work with you. Most employers are going to require you to sign it. You can't, if you say, I'm just not signing it, that certainly is the vet's choice, but then the employer could just say, well, we're not going to offer you the job if that's the case. So I find it's usually better to kind of, instead of just saying it's a yes or no, I'm in or I'm out with the non-compete, modify the terms to fit your specific needs. Well, that's a little breakdown of non-competes for vets. If you have any questions about your employment agreement, independent contractor agreement, or perhaps you have a non-compete clause, feel free to contact my law firm at the phone number listed below in the description, or you can reach us through our website, chellelaw.com. If you thought this video was helpful, please like, subscribe to the channel. We release videos every single day. All right, appreciate it. Thanks.